I'm happy to be joined by Lindsey Lawrence, new manager of TKDA's Bridge Group in the engineering, architectural, and planning consulting firm's Surface Transportation Division. Lindsey, thanks for checking in.
Thanks, Brian, for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So I see from your resume that you've been with TKDA now for 16 years almost, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, I graduated college, I guess the winter of 2005, and started right out of school with TKDA in that January of 2006. So it's been about 15, 16 years. So.
Okay, great. And when did you just start this new role now as manager of the Bridge Group?
So our longtime Vice President of Surface Transportation, Kevin Cullen, retired at the end of 2020. And so our then current Bridge Group manager, Matt Christensen, got promoted to that role, and then that left the Bridge Group manager vacant. So I was lucky enough to be chosen. And so I started at the beginning of this year, so January.
Okay. So you've been at it for a while now, and what are some of your duties now in this new role?
I would say I'm getting a lot more project management roles on top of what my design role was before, but then also just labor resources. So managing what all of our staff in the group has to work on, and then also trying to market and get more work for all of us to work on. So yeah, it's keeping me busy, that's for sure.
Yeah, how big of a group do you have there? How many people?
So TKDA's Bridge Group is, including myself, is 12 right now, and actually we're adding another grad engineer right out of school starting in June. So then we'll be 13, and then our Surface Transportation Group is about 40-ish right now, and we're made up of the Bridge Group, and then there's the Highway or Roadway Design Group, and then a Water Resources Group. So we all work together on projects.
Okay. What kinds of workloads are you seeing? Is it keeping you pretty busy now?
Yeah, I mean, our Bridge Group, we've been busy for quite a while, and then the backlog of work that we have currently is keeping all of us busy. As you can tell, we asked to hire a new grad, and so the backlog is good. And then we foresee a stimulus package coming out from the government that would also kind of enhance our workload substantially. So we're preparing for that, but not. I'm going to equate it to kind of like the 2008, 2009 era, where it was slow, but then there was that stimulus package in it, and it kind of got a little crazy there for a while.
Yeah. So do you do a lot of like Mndot projects, things like that, or different local municipalities and so on as well?
Yeah. So our TKDA's Bridge Group is kind of unique. We do both highway bridges and then pedestrian bridges, and then also a lot of rail bridges. I would say Mndot is probably one of our biggest clients, but then we have some of the big urban counties like Hennepin County, Ramsey County, Anoka, and then even some of the metropolitan cities like St. Paul and Minneapolis and Bloomington. But then we also go outstate as well. And then, like I said, for the railroad business, we do a lot of work for Class 1 railroads, so BNSF or UP and stuff like that. So.
Okay. Are you seeing a lot of pent-up needs there in both the, kind of across the board in the types of work you do, bridges, railroad?
So I'll touch first on maybe the railroad side of things. And I mean, the pandemic for everyone has kind of thrown a loop in business. And so I would say that the railroad kind of slowed down, but they also recognize that because they have slower traffic, this is a great opportunity to maybe rehab their bridges or replacements. So it hasn't totally died down, and then we expect a stimulus package like that to help them as well. And even the short line railroads, there's a bunch of local ones and then even outstate. So that's on the rail side, but then like government side or public side, yeah, there's a lot of work out there. I could say, like, if I want to say the interstate system, as you can guess, it was built in the 60s or 70s, and so a lot of those bridges are getting to the end of their life, and there was no real design life at that point in time. Whereas today's standards, we might build a bridge for 75 years. That's our goal. But then also a lot of things have changed, right? Traffic patterns have changed, loads have changed, and then even traffic modes have changed. It's not just automobile or whatever. A lot of urban areas want pedestrian access and things like that. So that really affects geometrics of bridges and roads. So lots of work out there, I would say.
Yeah, and the rail infrastructure, I imagine, is getting pretty old too out there.
Right, definitely. And they are a much more reactive a client. So as soon as something happens, then we need to jump and help them fix their assets, I guess I would say. And whereas I would describe like the public entities as more of preventative. They want to be able to rehab or replace if they can, if the funding exists, sooner rather than if they have a problem. So
it looks like they're pushing for some more transportation funding at the state level too. So.
Yes, yeah, that would really be great for obviously our business, but then on the construction side and it just filters through everything. So.
Are there any particular projects you're working on now that you could mention that maybe people will recognize or anything?
Sure. One that's actually just finishing getting constructed is Dale Street over 94. So in that, so I worked on that bridge and it was pretty unique. So it's one of the first bridges in that corridor to get replaced. So I expect more to happen in the future along that corridor. But so with that one, we had staged construction, so we could just keep traffic moving through that area. And so that makes the design a little more complicated. But so far the construction has gone really well, and the bridge is totally constructed, and you'll see some unique features on there. There's a big steel tree on each side. If you drive on 94, you'll see it on the bridge, and there's some other aesthetic features that are pretty unique to that area. So
I remember, or I wrote about that project. It seems like they really had a lot of community input in that.
Yes, right? Yes, right. And we worked with an artist, and she helped us come up with, I would say, economical but yet very unique features that we were able to incorporate into the bridge. And so I haven't been out there recently other than just driving under it, but I'd really like to see how the barriers and railings look up close. And I've heard it's something to see. So if you get a chance, you should go check that out too.
Yeah, definitely.
I can add on another project up in Anoka County. Is Foley Boulevard over BNSF tracks. So that's just north of 610 and I would say west of Highway 10. And so we just the county just put that out for bids. And I guess what's really good is, I mean, there was 9 contractors that bid on that project. And so contractors are hungry, they want some work, and all of those bids came in really tight. And so we feel we had a pretty solid plan set, and it was easily understood, and everybody came together with a pretty good bid there. And so I'm excited to see what that looks like when they actually start building it here soon.
Yeah, cool. So it looks like you attended North Dakota State University.
Yes, I did.
It was interesting.
Go Bison.
yeah, right. It was interesting because I was just talking to gentleman who's overseeing that big flood diversion project out there in Fargo Moorhead. I don't know where is North Dakota State located?
It is in Fargo, yes. Don't confuse it with that other town.
No, I didn't want to offend you there. So.
No, that's good.
But anyway, it sounds like that's going to just present a ton of work opportunities in the coming years. Is that anything that your group would be pursuing, anything like that? Or
and so in that area up there, so like I kind of described before, we kind of work with the rail industry a lot, and particular BNSF. And so I think in that area, for right now, we plan to stay on that side of the 8 ball, if you want to say it, instead of on the government side. So when we take that role, then we'll be looking at plan sets from other consultants and looking at it from a railroad's point of view and make sure it follows their standards. So, but otherwise, we might get our feet wet and I didn't want to use that pun, but and get into some design work up there. But usually we'll stay on the rail side.
Okay, cool. It looks like from your bio, I see one of your more memorable projects is the Warren Road Bridge project.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and what some of the interesting challenges were?
Yeah, so I guess why I stated that was my favorite project is because it really spanned a majority of my career. So like we stated early on in this conversation, I've been with TKDA for 15, 16 years, and started in 2006, but we started that project in 2009 with feasibility concepts. So just coming up with a layout that would work with both our client, who was Ramsey County, and then with the railroads. So Warner Road over all those railroad tracks is just southeast of downtown St. Paul, where our office is located. And so it was a great location too, right? It's just right next to our office. But then, like I've hinted many times with our railroad experience, I mean, that is one of the busiest railroad crossings in all of the country. It has 9 railroad lines that we had to span over, and then just think about construction of that, and not like for a highway bridge or a roadway bridge, you can detour traffic, but you can't do that in a railroad scenario, right? And so we had to think of some pretty unique and out of the box ideas to get some of our piers constructed and even the superstructure. So we were able to use the existing bridge as kind of our staging area, and we had our deep foundations were micropile in some areas, and so they were able to set up on the existing bridge and drill through the deck and then down into the ground without affecting rail traffic. And then also, well, I guess if you're not familiar with being in a rail corridor, you have to stop work whenever there's a train. So you can imagine in the busiest corridor ever that you would never get work done. So as long as we could stay, up in the air, out of the way of the rail traffic, we were golden for construction. So, but so I said, so feasibility wise, we started in 2009, and then we worked through final design. I worked, so there was 3 bridge plan sets. So there's the roadway that goes over all of that, but then the county had 2 pedestrian bridges that framed into that roadway bridge, and so there was 3 plan sets. So a lot of plan sheets and development on our end, and then I was lucky enough to be out there during construction, and I have found that to be pretty valuable in my career. I've had that on a couple projects where you're able to see what you've designed and how a contractor is able to put that into, real concrete or real rebar, and just see some of the choices you made, and maybe you can fix that in the future if it wasn't such a great idea. But so I was out in the field and was able to experience that. And then some of the unique things that happened that year is the river actually flooded that year. And it actually gave us an opportunity to, during the demolition of the existing bridge, to make that a little bit easier, because traffic had to be detoured because of the flood, not because of the construction. So, and then what I also mentioned with that project is once it was open to traffic, actually a couple of years later, so Mndot and FHWA require that you go out and inspect bridges just to see how they're performing. And so I was able to see that and just see how things were faring after just 2 years of construction. So it was, so that's pretty a long, elaborate description, but it spanned a lot of years of my career. So I would say that was my favorite project.
Great. And when was that finally completed?
I think it was open to construction in 2015.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Really interesting. A lot of challenges there. Interesting.
Yeah. And I could go into a lot more, but I don't want to bore you or get too technical. So.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So, just to back up a little bit, curious how you got interested in this line of work as a career, and did you have family members who are engineers, or is this something you kind of got into on your own?
So actually, nobody in my family is an engineer. I kind of made this route my own. I was pretty good at math and science, and I hear that from a lot of engineers. Coming out of high school, you're good at math and science. What do you want to do with that? So I enrolled with NDSU, knowing they had a great engineering program, and so I started with that first semester. They had a general engineering course where they kind of go through all of the different engineering degrees, and so you can kind of get a flavor without actually declaring a degree quite yet. Mm-hmm. And I thought civil engineering would give me the most flexibility of possible office time versus field time. I really enjoy the outdoors, and at the time, I didn't want to be chained to a desk for the rest of my working career. So that's probably what influenced me the most. And then while I was in school, I had some extracurricular activities. There's within civil engineering schools, there is concrete canoe, they call it, competition, and then a steel bridge competition. And I was in both. And the steel bridge obviously was great experience and kind of leaned me towards my career path here. So here I am.
Yeah, cool. I understand that in your free time, you enjoy being outdoors and fishing and things like that. Is that correct?
Yes. So we own a cabin in Wisconsin, and it's fishing opener this weekend. So we'll be headed that direction, and I'm so happy to see that the weather will be nice. I am definitely a fair weather fisherman. But we also have family up in Alaska, so we try to get there at least once a year. And salmon fishing is like no other. It's pretty addicting. So cool. I would recommend it if you can get up there.
Well, that sounds great. I have family in the Pacific Northwest, in Oregon, actually, and many years ago went fishing for steelhead out there, and didn't catch anything, but
the experience. Well, I can tell you, as soon as you come back to lake fishing back here in Minnesota, after you've set the hook on a salmon and you try to set the hook on a walleye or a panfish, it just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah. Well, cool. I hope you can reel in a lot more projects here coming. No pun intended there.
Yeah, thank you.
It sounds like you're plenty busy, and
yes.
So good luck to you and going forward. Any other thoughts, just kind of on the outlook for the year? I know we're hopefully coming out of this pandemic now, and do you see things picking up, or just kind of staying about the same, or what's your outlook?
I mean, I think workload wise, I think we've been very steady, and the pandemic didn't really affect any of that. I think the pandemic has really changed the work environment. It's given flexibility for a lot of people who are able to work from home. I know it's not easy. I mean, I have 3 kids, and our daycare just happened to be shut down last week because of close contacts or whatever. And so that whole aspect is hard, but just being able not to have that commute into the office or whatnot, you can work that extra hour instead of driving or whatever it is. And then also for me as a manager now, I'm trying to look for hiring opportunities. If people are able to move back home where their parents are, or whatever the reason is, they don't necessarily have to live in a big metropolitan area, or they can live outstate if they needed to. And so I think that's one of the highlights of this pandemic, is just being able to have that more flexible work-life balance.
Yeah, absolutely. I have 4 kids too. One of them's away in college, but 3 are still at home, and it's definitely, it can be distracting at times working.
It can, yeah. I hear that.
Between the kids and the dog and everything else, but
yeah, I mean, we all miss going to the office to actually get that face-to-face contact, not just this virtual world we are in now, but there are some benefits to it. So
yeah. All right, Lindsay. Well, thanks again for your time, and really enjoyed chatting with you. And
yeah, you too.
Yeah, hopefully we can stay in touch, and if you have specific projects you want to talk about or something.
No, will do. Thank you very much. And if you have anything else, I know there's other people within TKDA that would love to share some stories too. So
great. All right, awesome.
All right, thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Yep, take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.